Hello and welcome. Willkommen, bienvenue to my October 2020 astrological forecast and predictions video. I'm Patrick Jaguar, the Cosmic Alchemist, and welcome to October. So this is the video, if you haven't seen these before, my monthly series. This is where I kind of put my 2 cents in about the coming month and go into the general themes and then the particulars of the astrology, and I do my little rant for whoever feels like listening. So let's get into it. October it's a big month. I've been saying for a while that it's a big month, but this is one of the big months that it's all been leading up to. So yeah, October is going to be a doozy. The big themes for October, we're going to be dealing with anger. We're going to be dealing with communication. And it's going to be a lot of angry communication. Anger's the big thing in October here. And it's been brewing for a long time. So let's talk about anger to start off with here. So, this day and age in Western society, it's funny because I was about to say that anger is frowned upon, and it's not completely true. Basically, these days there are certain situations and certain things that the hive mind will authorize any of us to be angry about. There are even things that the hive mind demands that we get angry about, otherwise you're a bad person. But, by and large, what's been going on for decades now, and, what's still going on is, if you get angry for your own sake, if you get angry about something that other people haven't been given permission to be angry about, then you're a weirdo or you're crazy or whatever. We have a very strange and awkward and uncomfortable relationship with anger. And we have for a long time. Since I was a kid, I've noticed it. And, I'm the type of person who has very heartfelt responses and reactions to things, and I don't sugarcoat for people. I hate blowing smoke up people's asses, and I just don't do it. And, I kind of take life as it comes, and I give my honest reaction to most things. So, and I've definitely had a relationship with anger my whole life. It runs in the family too. And we have people in the family who pretend that they're never angry, unless the news has given them permission to be angry about something. So I've noticed this in our Western world. I've noticed this very strange relationship we have to anger. And how most of the time we're not allowed to have it. And, one of my favorite researchers, Michael Tessarian, he coined this term, the one-season world of the smiling depressive, is what he says. So, by and large in society, it's like, you're not really allowed to talk about how you feel because it makes other people uncomfortable. It's like, you're allowed to brag about yourself and about your life. You're allowed to be overjoyed and ecstatic, but you're not allowed to be depressed. You're not allowed to be angry because it makes other people uncomfortable. It basically reminds people what they're in denial about, and it makes them uncomfortable. So it's like, last thing you want to do is remind people that they're in denial about their own feelings. Men and women do this. Men outright ignore their feelings, and women talk circles around them and rationalize them, and really don't get to the heart of them. So that's it's a human thing, but it's particularly bad in the Western world these days. Anger has become a virtue signal in the last 4 years, especially since the advent of Donald Trump. If you're not enraged by him and by other things that go on, then you're just a bad person. What is it? Anger is, what is it? Silence is racism, and silence is this and that. So yeah, anger has become a virtue signal to people who used to think you were a weirdo or you were crazy if you were angry. So we have a very dysfunctional relationship with anger. But that relationship is getting manipulated right now. And really, excuse me. So that relationship is getting manipulated right now. And really, with everything going on in the news and everything that the media has been spoon feeding us, basically in the world right now, some very wealthy and powerful people are trying to get us to fight a war for them, or trying to get us, we the people who get up and go to work every morning, they're trying to get us to fight a civil war for them. And that's something that we can't afford to fall for at this time, and ever. And, every war is a joke. You're always fighting them for people who live in palaces and people who stand to make a shitload of money off of your suffering and the suffering of other people. So right now, the same thing's happening. There's a lot of ins and outs to what's going on in the country right now, but it's more than what the news media is telling you. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you from my own experience, from what I learned in the intelligence community, from what I've learned from people who spent much more time in the intelligence community, from research I've done. There's a lot going on, and even with this election, there are a lot of foreign powers that have a hand in this. And all the protests going on, it's not just righteous indignation. It's actually, especially when you want to talk about Antifa and stuff like that, Chinese intelligence is here in the United States, and they're funding and organizing and stirring this stuff up. And a lot of powerful, wealthy people are trying to get us to fight each other right now. So use your head, do your research, and dare to get into material that's not New York Times bestseller, or is not the New York Times or the Washington Post. There are professors, university professors, who have written volumes about how multinational corporations and big foundations and big think tanks fund civil unrest. Big banks do it. They fund civil unrest and get people to fight each other, and basically they create the public opinion and they spoon feed it to the public to cause violence and chaos and to bring about changes in countries. So that's going on right now. So the big challenge for October is don't fight some gazillionaire's war for him or her. And there's jackasses on both sides. There's right-wing dinglings and there's white supremacists, but really most of the violence that's going on, it's being left-wing driven right now. And Antifa is not something that was born when Donald Trump was elected. It's actually it's a much older organization. It comes from the Socialist Revolutionary Party in Russia, started around late 1800s, 1900, when the Tsar was still in power. And the Socialist Revolutionary Party they were left-wing terrorists. And there's a myth right now that terrorists are only right-wing, or they're only religious. Well, that's not the case. And in the end of Imperial Russia, at the beginning of the Soviet Union, the Socialist Revolutionary Party were terrorists, and they assassinated people, and they staged riots, and they burned things down, and they destroyed businesses and buildings, and they ended up being so extreme that the Bolsheviks, who became the Soviet government, the Socialist Revolutionary Party was so extreme. They were too extreme for the Bolsheviks. The Bolsheviks ended up throwing them out of the parliament, out of the National Assembly, and then they imprisoned and executed a lot of them. And the ones that weren't executed or imprisoned fled into other parts of Europe, where they were hosted and sponsored by big banks, because banks make money off of any kind of government. They make money off of far right-wing governments. They make money off of far left-wing governments and everything in between. And they can, far left-wing governments are not enemies of the banks, because they always need money. People on the left really don't know how to make money, and they don't know how to hang on to it. So they always need money. And the governments are no exception. And so banks have sponsored far-left groups and used them to take countries over so that they can steal all the wealth. So this is going on right now. I don't have a horse in the race. I don't belong to a party. I find both Donald Trump and Joe Biden to be undesirable. Same thing with Kamala Harris, Mike Pence, I don't care for any of them. I think people should stop worshiping all these people and have some self-esteem, and be your own leaders. I think that's some years off, but that's really what I believe. So I'm not praising any party or any political puppet. It's not what I'm into. So the whole point in all this is you don't know any of these people, so don't get angry on their behalf and don't fight for them, because they're not going to reward you. Especially when I'm talking about Antifa, if you're Antifa, you're gonna end up, if the person you want in office gets in there, they're gonna reward you just like the Bolsheviks rewarded the Socialist Revolutionary Party, and they're gonna throw you in jail, or they're gonna kill you. So be aware of that. And it's the same for all parties, but it's less severe. There's no election where politicians really keep their promises. Not to praise him, but actually Donald Trump has done a bunch of the stuff he promised to do. Maybe it's a first, but again, they're all selling you some bullshit. It's pillow talk. You know what I mean? It's just, they're talking sweet to you to get your pants off. And the minute they've had their fun with you, they forget what they promised you. So the point is, don't get all angry and violent about this shit, because it's all a show. It's the greatest show on earth. So, and another thing with anger is that it's a signal from your unconscious mind. It's a signal from your body that you need to change something. You're in a situation that is not right for you, and you need to change it. So anger is a catalyst. Now, another thing with anger is we have anger when we haven't had sufficient willpower. So when we haven't gone out and created our own circumstances and created our own lives, we've allowed life to happen to us. and we're in situations we don't want to be in. So then anger is a catalyst that gets you out of that situation. So that's what anger is supposed to be about. What's going on right now is that our anger is getting funneled so that we will hate people who are voting for the other guy, and so that we'll dehumanize those people and cut those people out of our lives and refuse to talk to those people and think those people are evil, and maybe even fight those people and, burn their houses down, burn their businesses down. So we can't fall for this. And we can be manipulated like this because we don't have the willpower to change our lives to be the way that we want them to be. Because the way we're raised, we're always building our lives based on the expectations of our parents and our families and our friends, and then we do it for our spouses and our churches and our co-workers, and we never have the willpower or the courage to be our real selves. And so we end up living in a state of anger. And once you're just in a perpetual state of anger, then you can be steered and manipulated by the media, because since by and large we don't have the courage to shape our lives, then we start fixating on the news and on politics. So it's like it's a weird voyeuristic thing that goes on. So we don't have the courage to build the lives we want, but we have the courage to be spectators in this totally fake, fabricated political show. And in the way it's going now, people are so extremist about this fake political show that they're gaslighting themselves that one, it's real, and two, that they know what's going on. And the fact of the matter is, if you haven't gone on vacation or had dinner or had Thanksgiving dinner or spent time with Donald Trump, Joe Biden, whoever the hell else, you don't know those people. It doesn't matter if your parents or grandparents fought in World War II. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how much education you have. You're being fooled. The people who sponsor the media write the news. The editorial boards at news networks are made up of corporate sponsors. And those same corporate sponsors give political candidates the money they need to run. So big business owns it all. Big business, big banking owns it all. And they're not creating the news to keep you informed because you're so intelligent and so awesome and so educated, and your parents or grandparents were so brave. That's not how it is at all. So, if you're tempted to say something like, well, Joe Biden or Donald Trump insults my intelligence, then you may need to come to terms with the fact that you're not as intelligent as you believe you are. I'm not saying I have the highest intelligence. My whole thing, I'm into this because I'm fascinated with all the things I don't know in this universe. So, and the more I know, the more I learn, the less I know. So I'm not saying I have it all together. I'm just saying there are things we need to be investigating and thinking about and looking at. We need to be using our imaginations about the unknowns, about the things that we don't know. And we just need to be open to insights, because insights are flying at us all the time, but we get snobby about it and we think that our intellect can just come up with every answer and every possibility. And that sucks the joy out of living when your intellect has to do it all and you have no imagination and you're just not open and receptive. So anyway, anger is a catalyst. And getting back to my point, if people had the courage to change their lives and live the lives they wanted to live, people in power would be in trouble. Because when people are self-actualized like that, they don't listen. They don't listen to some dumbass in a suit on TV. So really in this month, check your anger. Don't fight somebody else's battle, because somebody who lives in a palace is trying to get you to basically fight a civil war. And if you want to talk about a border wall, the border wall is not about keeping people out of this country. In my opinion, it's about keeping people in. When you look at Nazi Germany and Soviet Union, they had lockdown borders. They didn't let people out. And the Catholic Church is like that, but it's like a soft border. Once you've been baptized, they don't let you opt out of the Catholic club, out of your subscription. You're on their rolls till the day you die. So today's authoritarians have plenty of examples from ones in the past. So especially with COVID too, we're locked in here. So you're locked in here. Don't allow yourself to be manipulated into fighting a civil war for somebody who lives in a palace. So check your anger and use your anger to change your own life, instead of just being a spectator for some shithead on TV in a suit in a debate. So that's the big thing. Anger's the big thing. There's going to be a lot of angry communication too. We're going to get into that. So we're about 20 minutes in. Let's get into some particulars here. So the big astrological feature driving this anger is the retrograde Mars, which is going to be retrograde until the middle of November. When we get to October 1st, Mars is going to be at about the first degree of Aries. So first 2 degrees of a fire sign, last 2 degrees of a water sign are Gandanta. And Gandanta is when a planet feels desperate and drowning, and it feels like things are out of control. So Mars is October 1st at about 1 degree of Aries. On the 4th, it's going to go to the 29th degree of Pisces, and that's really when it's feeling the Gandanta, because it's in the water. It feels the drowning. So that alone just brings up a lot of anger. October 4th, when it crosses into Pisces, that's like a place where it spikes. So you've got this Mars retrograde, you've got it in Gandanta, and you also have Mars looking at Mercury at different times, Saturn looking at Mars. So just a lot of things to fuel a lot of anger. At some points in the month, you have Mars and the Sun in opposite signs. They're looking right at each other at the same degrees. So a lot of anger flying around. Be careful. Don't pay attention. Don't fall into it. So, another thing too, K2, I think on the 13th, K2 comes out of Gandanta, because K2 is in the final degrees of Scorpio, 29 degrees of Scorpio. So 28, 29 degrees of Scorpio, being a water sign, is Gandanta. So K2, when K2 is in a bad position, it feeds the energy and the mentality of extremism. Another interesting thing going on this month is that Venus is going to be in Leo for most of the month till the 23rd of October, and then it's going to change to Virgo. So, with Venus in Leo, Venus is all about social activity and romance and friendship. And Leo is leaders and royals and authority figures and executive figures. So it's like executive figures and all kinds of leaders right now are trying to buddy up to us and trying to be like, I know exactly what your life is like. I'm your buddy. Vote for me. They're buddy-buddy. I think, though, because of the nature of this election and the nature of the times we live in, once Venus goes to Virgo on the 23rd, you're going to see a big change in the way that a lot of election candidates are talking. I think they're going to get kind of nasty, because Venus is debilitated in Virgo. It's the weakest position. I think a lot of these candidates are going to get nasty, and they're going to be like George W. and Dick Cheney after 9/11. It's like, you're either with us or you're with them, and there's no in between ground, and if you're not with us, you're wrong. And I think this is going to be a big thing for the Democratic Party. Again, I don't belong to a party. I say what I observe. The Democratic Party has really gotten nasty in the last 4 years. They've gone from being about peace and love and compassion and diversity, and now they're just another conservative party, and they're all about conformity, and they're total thought police. And if you don't agree with them, then you're a Russian spy, you're a racist, you're a this, you're a that, you're a Trumper. They're gonna get even nastier because they're desperate. And this is not with Saturn at home in Capricorn, and with Jupiter coming to Capricorn, Pluto coming to Capricorn. This is not a time for radical change and, touchy-feely, good times. It's not one of those times. This is the time where, a lot of change is going to happen, but Saturn is the status quo. So Saturn is conservatism. You get two conservative parties, but this is a strong time for incumbent presidents, incumbent leaders in general. So, I think this Venus going from Leo to Virgo is going to really change the tone of a lot of political candidates. And another thing too that's been going on for years, because Neptune moves so slow. Neptune's in Aquarius, and it's retrograde right now. So all of us are just deluded. We don't see the world clearly, and we think we have all the answers, and we don't see anything clearly. We're not only being gaslighted, but we're gaslighting ourselves, and we're allowing ourselves to be gaslighted. And there's a good possibility of disclosures in this month, and then going forward this year too. A lot of scandals and secrets and underhanded dealings have been kept under wraps for a long time. And as this race gets more desperate, people might be more willing to throw some dirt out there, throw some secrets out there. And I think too, we're going to see a lot of alliances and partnerships coming apart. Social alliances, political alliances, business alliances. So, keep an eye out for that. I think through all this too, there'll be some market volatility. You might see the stock market dip here in October, but I think it's going to bounce back. So anyway, let's go into the days here. I'm running on and on. So October 1st, start the month with a bang. We got a full moon in Pisces. So Pisces deals with freedom, it deals with liberation, it deals with escapes from constraints of all types. Escapes can be healthy and unhealthy. They're both. Because when you're in shitty circumstances, the best thing to do is to escape into better ones. So you just, people talk about escapism, and escapism is a thing, but escaping can be very healthy too. Pisces is all about just the world beyond this visible world. Deals with isolation, deals with peace, peace and quiet, tranquility. So, and then a full moon is all about the mind being laid bare. So the moon is a macrocosm, a bigger version of the mind, and the sun is a macrocosm, a bigger version of the soul. The mind and the moon are both reflective. They're reflectors. The moon reflects the sun, the mind reflects the soul. And the mind is not just the thinking intellect, it's also your memories, your emotions. It's like your whole intangible being. Your mind is actually the matrix that ties your soul and your body together. It needs energy from the soul and from the body to animate it. So anyway, a full moon is your mind laid bare. It's all the thoughts and feelings that you would rather not deal with being totally energized and just shown to you. So that's why full moons can be unnerving for people. So probably about half of them have trouble sleeping. So with this full moon in Pisces, we're basically being shown, you know, we're being given an opportunity to think about, you know, where do we want things to go? Because in the world lately, we've been very constrained. We've been kind of locked up, locked down. So we have the rest of our lives on our minds. You know, we're thinking about how we want life to go back to normal, how we want to have fun again, how we want to do social stuff and go back to our usual activities. That's a big thing on people's minds. So it's like we want to escape from the circumstances we're in right now. Now, you know, Pisces also deals with illusions and our way of diluting and gaslighting ourselves. So, because being in denial about something is a form of escape. So, we're going to be shown, you know, what we're in denial about and you know, what the truth that, you know, we're kind of running from. So, that is, that's kind of the big topic for this full moon. So, you know, and in the news, you know, we might even be faced with disclosures of, you know, illegal, hidden, scandalous things that, you know, conspiracy theorists were talking about for a long time, but they might just become realities. Not necessarily on the full moon day, but from now till the next full moon in November. So, you know, especially when you have, you know, you've got a Mars and Ketu and Gandanta, you know, with all this like extremism and, you know, volatility and everything. It's like a lot of the time that's when this type of thing comes out into the news. So, because people doing illegal, underhanded things will often let out some mildly incriminating information so that we don't see the bigger stuff. So, that's the full moon. We get to October 4th. I mentioned this already. The retrograde Mars goes to Pisces, so it's in that Gandanta. And, you know, that's, again, it fuels that feeling of drowning and being out of control and the anger and the violence and the volatility. So, you know, we're going to see more rioting, you know, more nonsense like that. Also on October 4th, Pluto is going to go direct. It's been retrograde. It's going to stop to go direct. So when a planet stops a retrograde to go direct, it's a big window of potential energy. So Pluto has it. It's going to have it going on. And Pluto is all about the underworld and the unconscious. It's all about, it's the hidden things within ourselves and within the world that we weren't even aware of most of the time, and all of a sudden they come out of nowhere, and it can be pretty shocking. Pluto also just deals with sneaky things that were going on. You know, Pluto is in the last degrees of Sagittarius right now. So, you know, the Sagittarius deals with our worldview, and it deals with our higher knowledge and our philosophies and spirituality and religion. So it's like having Pluto there, it can deal with, you know, kind of the hidden things within our worldviews that we don't know about, that have been hidden from us. So that energy of Pluto ending that retrograde and going direct can really be a catalyst for disclosures to happen. October 11th, Mars is going to end that Gandanta. So Mars is going to go to 27 degrees of Pisces. So it's retrograde. It's going to leave that 28th degree, go to 27. It's going to take an edge off of all this, you know, anger and extremism and, you know, just all that craziness. Sun and Mars will be approaching a direct aspect. To get specific, let's see. You get the 11th here. I had the 13th though. So on the 11th, Yeah, Mars is 27 degrees of Pisces. Sun is 24 degrees of Virgo. So opposite signs. They're within 3 degrees, so they're looking pretty directly at each other. So, it's like the Sun is valor and Mars is bravery. And, Mars is also violence and volatility. And the Sun is like, it's energy. It's the soul, it's the ego. So you get these two looking right at each other, and Mars is just getting fed more energy. So it's more potential for craziness, volatility, violence, all that fun stuff. So we get to the 13th. Two big events. The first one of lesser importance. K2 ends its Gandanta. So it's going to come to 27 degrees of Scorpio. So out of the 28th degree into the 27th. Take some of the edge off the extremism. Another thing too is with K2 in Scorpio, Rahu in Taurus, we're going to start feeling more safety, more stability. Things are they're on a path back to being back to normal. It's going to take a little while, but Rahu being in Taurus, that's the material world. Deals all with material security. And K2 in Scorpio. Scorpio is our underlying issues and emotions, and so you get stability by going into your unconscious mind, which Scorpio deals with, and sorting out your issues. So we're getting there. Now the other thing on the 13th, we've got this Mercury retrograde. Mercury is going to retrograde in Libra, so one of Venus's signs. Especially the last 7-8 days of the month, once Venus goes to Virgo, since Mercury is going to be in Venus's sign, communications are going to go totally haywire. Communications go haywire and Mercury retrogrades to begin with. This is going to be even more extreme. Because again, Mercury is going to be in Libra, which is one of Venus's home signs. Venus is going to be debilitated in Virgo. And so Venus won't be lending that support to Mercury. So you're going to have Mercury retrograde in Libra. It's going to go at 17 degrees. That's going to be like 9 p.m. East Coast time. So again, Mercury retrograde, it's all about any kind of retrograde of a planet is about going back and reviewing whatever that planet pertains to. So Mercury is communications, it's media, it's intellect, it's trade. So it's all about going back and correcting those things. It's not the greatest time to charge forward. You still have to live life, and sometimes you have to start things, but you just have to be careful. Just do things properly. So yeah, October 13th through November 3rd, we're going to have this Mercury retrograde. Just communications of all time get garbled, they get confusing, and they get difficult. And on top of this, you have a whole bunch of aspects. This is where Mars and Saturn comes in, and I just don't want to do this off the top of my head. I'm just going to pull this up here. Come on. 13th. So, yeah. Okay, first off, the day this retrogrades, and actually through the whole retrograde, you're going to have the 8th aspect of Mars on Mercury in Libra, because Mars is over in Pisces. So, Mars is 8 houses away looking at Mercury. So, it's going to bring anger to thinking and to communications. Now, Libra is also a sign, one of the signs that deals with politics. So, thinking and communication in and around and about politics is going to be all angry and garbled and disjointed. Mercury is also across the zodiac from Uranus and Aries, and they're only 2 degrees different. So Aries is leadership, and Uranus is retrograde, and Uranus is all about, it's a great revealer, and it's also about overturning things. So Uranus and Aries, people are thinking about overturning the leadership. And Uranus is, it's lending support to that. Not just like a president or a governor, but just the whole system of leadership in the whole world. And Uranus also wants to help reveal to us what these leaders are actually like, because they're not like what you imagine them to be. They're not like they are in the news. And then I think we got Saturn involved here. Let me see. Yeah, so Saturn's 10th aspect is going to be on Mercury retrograde in Libra. So communications will not only be angry and garbled and disjointed, but they'll be slow, and it'll be difficult to get the right words together, get the words out, get them out the way you want. So we got that. We got Saturn's third aspect on Mars, so that's, in one sense, it's conflict and setbacks, but then, to me, Saturn holds things back too. So, it can kind of keep volatility in check, in my opinion, because Saturn just slows down whatever it looks at or whatever it sits with. And then, you've got, on the day of the retrograde, you've got Mars and Sun looking right at each other in opposite signs, only 1 degree different. So, the Sun energizes Mars and brings more violence and volatility and, desire to just sort of bust a move and do something. But Saturn is in Pisces, and Mars is in Pisces, and it really can't act the way it would like to. So yeah, this is going to be a shit show of Mercury retrograde. This is going to be one of the biggest Mercury retrogrades in years, at least in 20 years, because in 2000 we also had a Mercury retrograde that ended on November 3rd, just like this year. November 3rd is election day. So in 2000 we didn't know who the president was. It was Gore-Bush election. Nobody knew who it was, and it had to go to the Supreme Court to be decided. So this is going to happen all over again. And we can already see this because there's all these mail-in ballots, but they can't be unsealed until election day. So basically all the election boards are going to be swamped with mail-in ballots, and they're probably not going to be able to count them all in time. And now they're talking about giving an extension for mail-in ballots. So it's going to be crazy. There's going to be election fraud everywhere, and Republicans are accusing the Democrats of it, and Democrats are accusing the Republicans. They're all doing it. I'll give you a little clue. Whoever is most desperate will cheat harder. Use your heads. So we've got that going on. Interestingly, too, that October 13th retrograde day is a Tuesday. So Monday is October the 12th. That's most likely when the Supreme Court confirmation hearings are going to be held about this new Supreme Court justice. What's her name again? Is it Barrett? Yeah, what the hell's her name? Yeah, Barrett. Where's her full name? Amy Coney Barrett. Yeah. So Donald Trump's Supreme Court pick. I'm thinking she's going to get in there because the Mueller hearings also took place during a Mercury retrograde. Worst time those could have been held. Even after a postponement, they were still on a Mercury retrograde. Astrology is one of the dirty secrets of banking and politics. They all use them. Well, not all, but a lot of people do. Somebody wasn't using an astrologer when they agreed to that. So, the Mueller hearings where everyone was like, oh, Donald Trump's going down this time. They have him this time. Mueller got there and he was just kind of like, oh, good coffee, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me. And, every time they asked him a question, he just couldn't get any answers out of himself. So Not a great day for speaking, Mercury retrograde. And when people put themselves in these positions of power, you know, these planetary energies and the energies of the collective conscious really take them over and you know, act and speak through them. So this is not going to be a good day, in my opinion, for people who want to block Amy Coney Barrett from being on the Supreme Court. I think she's going to get in there. And really trying to block her is just about creating a stalemate for the election, because you know, it's like Democrats don't want the Supreme Court deciding it. They want to throw the mother of all temper tantrums and have Donald Trump just back down out of shame, because you know, lately the greatest weapon has been shame against people they don't like. But shame isn't law, and the wishes of a late Supreme Court justice are not law. You got an empty seat, you fill it. You know, and it's like, politics is a game, and it is a contest, and it is a competition. And it's like, you don't let your opponent fill a court seat after you've lost an election. I mean, it's just fucking dumb. You know? It's like the Democrats would be wanting to fill it. So, yeah, I think they're going to get her in there. Now, another thing that's going on during this retrograde is that the IMF, International Monetary Fund, is convening a meeting on October the 12th. It's going to last for 6 days through the 18th. It's actually going to be a virtual meeting. For whatever reason, they're not meeting in person. I think it's an emergency meeting. I think there wasn't enough notice to pull all the principals together from around the world. Because IMF is a private bank. So yeah, I think they couldn't pull the principals together all in time. So they're going to do this virtual one, and you know, I think, and the thing with this Mercury retrograde is that, you know, the people, especially with Saturn as strong as it is, I think if you're like trying to do something new, if you're trying to be the rebel and kind of like overturn things, then you're not going to have good luck. So yeah, the whole thing with like just not following the procedure and getting a new justice in the court, like that bid's not going to do well. Just radical change in the government, like it's just not a good astrological time for it. And you know why this has to do with the IMF. The IMF has been very cryptically, since April of this year, 2020, has been talking about a global economic reset, and they won't talk about what that means. But basically, what it has to deal with is that the U.S. dollar was taken out of its premier status. You know, the U.S. dollar, according to the top bankers in the world, is no longer. It was established as a premier currency in 1944 by Bretton Woods Convention, the first one. George Soros hosted a Bretton Woods II convention in 2011 up in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, and they decided that the U.S. dollar was no longer the premier world currency. And so I think IMF is following up on this, and they have a whole new financial game and a whole new financial bubble that they want to inflate. And they're trying to agree on how to do this. I think there's a lot of infighting within, the different shareholders and principals within IMF, and I don't think they can really agree right now. And so I'm going to make another video about this. When you look at the charts for these days in IMF's birth chart, they're going to kind of fall on their face here. They've gotten too complacent, and it's like their time is kind of up, or their time to be in charge is, it's on its way out. So I think this IMF summit is going to be pretty unproductive. I think it's going to be full of conflict. It's going to be fraught with technical difficulties because they are using the internet. that's a type of media, it's a type of communication, and Mercury retrograde. Yeah, I think election campaigns through this Mercury retrograde, they'll have difficulty communicating their messages with the potential voters. Yeah, and they're just not going to be so damn friendly. They're going to get nasty. They're basically going to be bad-mouthing the people they want to vote for them. Not all of them, but the ones who are most desperate will be doing this. So you're with us or you're against us kind of a message. That's what they're going to switch to. YouTube and TV will be full of it. Yeah. So that's retrograde day. Then we jump to the 16th. October 16th, we have the second Virgo new moon in a row. So, what was it? It was the 17th. Yeah, I think it was the 17th of September, thereabouts. We also had a new moon in Virgo. In September, we had new moon in Virgo at 0 degrees. So that's one of the miracle degrees, as they call it. And when you have something at 0 degrees, it's all about like a new beginning for something. 29th degree is the other miracle degree, and that's all about an ending of something. So right in a row, a month apart, we get 2 Virgo new moons in a row. That's very rare. I haven't really heard anyone else talking about that, but whatever. So that month of time between the 17th of September and the 16th of October, we have the universe has, life, whatever you want to call it, God has given us this opportunity to heal something, to correct something, because Virgo is all about healing and correcting things. So it's given us the opportunity to heal and, correct something in our lives. I think it's anger. Because again, Virgo is the opposite sign from Pisces. And, at the time, Mars was in Aries. On September the 17th, Mars was in Aries. But Mars had very recently been in Pisces. So it's like that, and it was... Let me see if it was in Gandanta on the 17th. I've got so much damn information going through my brain. I'm like... Let me see, September 17th, where are you? Yeah. All right. On September the 17th, Mars was at 3 degrees of... Yeah. It was at 3 degrees of Aries, going retrograde. So it was on its way back to Pisces. But it had just recently been in Pisces. So both Virgo new moons, opposite sign from Pisces, with a Mars in Pisces. So this whole month is about understanding what we think makes us angry, and then understanding what is it we're really angry about. It's like you're not really angry about a politician you never met. You're really angry about circumstances in your life that you created, but you don't have the willpower to change. Or, you're still angry about something that happened years ago and you're still resentful about it. So it's a big window of time for us to heal that and let that go, because, you can't start new chapters of your life and receive new experiences when you're hanging on to old anger and old resentments and, old angry patterns of thinking. So yeah, these Virgo new moons are, they're like bookends, and it's a period of time when you can, heal and correct problems, in your life, in your mind, and your emotions. I think this is, whenever you have a new moon, something emerges from the dark. So, it's something, from yourself. Something inside yourself will come out of the dark, and you'll almost be shocked, and it's like, oh my God, really? I've been angry about some experience from 15 years ago, for that long? Well, that happens. It's very common. It's kind of how we work. So, maybe even a disclosure on the world scale, because, when the moon goes dark, things come out of the dark. Light illuminates things first, but light also blinds us. Light has those two natures. So sometimes when the light goes out, we can see something better we couldn't before. So, yeah, I mean, the thing too with Virgo is it's a maiden. Virgo, it's like the word virgin. It's a young woman. The whole Jeffrey Epstein thing is still going, and really the U.S. attorney in the Virgin Islands is like a total bulldog, and she is pushing for the disclosure of all of the flight logs for Epstein's plane, the Lolita Express, and a lot of big names on there. It's like Ricky Gervais was saying during the Oscars. He was like joking, about Epstein. He's like, "Oh, you're all friends with him." He's like, "I guess you have to take your own plane here to not the Oscars, but the Golden Globes." So he knew it. He knows that a lot of people with big names are friends with that guy, and a lot of people don't want those names getting published because they're going to be getting served court papers. So this could be a big time for that, because Virgo, it's symbolized by a young woman, and that guy abused a lot of young women, him and Harvey Weinstein, and many others. So we'll see what happens. And then what's the other thing I want to talk about? Yeah, I mentioned before, this while all this is going on, you got this Mercury retrograde in Libra. It's in mutual aspect with that Uranus in retrograde in Aries. So, with this new moon, we could see, corrupt leaders being overthrown, and exposed. So time shall surely tell. October 17th, we've got Sun in Libra. So this is like the decline of the year here. This is where the Sun starts. We've passed the equinox, and the Sun is going to the southern hemisphere, and the Sun is going to die for 3 days on December 21st, so it can be resurrected on the 25th. So, the Sun in Libra, on the 17th, it'll be, let me see, I think it's what are the degree separations? Yes. So, yeah, 17th, Sun and Moon will be very close together, and, excuse me, that was September. All right. So, yeah. 17th, you get Sun at 0 degrees of Libra, just enters the sign. You get Mercury at 5 degrees. You get Moon at 5 degrees, and then Mercury retrograde at 16 degrees. You get Sun, Moon, Mercury, all in Libra. So, Sun's the king, Moon's the queen, Mercury's the prince. So soul, mind, intellect, all in Libra. And Libra, deals with balance. It deals with business. It deals with our relationships with people. It also deals with politics. Like I said, you can have the 8th aspect of Mars on Libra, and then the 10th aspect of Saturn. So, there's going to be conflict about all this stuff, about what's the best way to keep the world in balance, what are politics going to look like. The volatility of Mars is going to, visit these areas. So, and when you get to Libra too, it's time to start kind of letting the year go so you can move on to a new year. So, we also kind of have to just let things go. Let me see, the 18th. Yeah, I'm gonna do a video on the IMF meeting and on the IMF, because that's a big subject. So jumping ahead, we go to the 23rd. That's that Venus in Virgo I was talking about. So Venus was in Leo again. It's like the leadership is trying to buddy up to us and be all friendly and, and become friends with us. But then it goes to Virgo. I think things are going to break down. Those political candidates, the ones that are the most desperate, are going to get nasty. They're going to get demanding. They're going to make ultimatums. They're going to accuse you of being with the enemy if you're not unequivocally for them. Venus is also social activity and romance and, friendship. So Venus going to its debilitation point, it's like, yeah, you're going to see breakdown in some social relationships and business partnerships and political alliances and partnerships. Just a lot of infighting in all these different areas. And again, Venus will be in the opposite sign of Mars. They'll be 24 degrees apart. So not a lot of influence from Mars, but Mars will still have that, that energy on it. Some of that anger energy going to Venus and Virgo. And then they'll have their mutual aspect November 10th. It's not for a while, but they'll be looking at each other. And things by November 10th will still be contentious. People will still be all pissed off about the election. So yeah, you'll have some divided friendships and families over that, relationships, business partnerships. So, fun times, right? What else? Oh yeah, also on the 23rd, you've got Moon conjunct with Saturn in Capricorn. So, we're still feeling these constrictions and these limitations of the world and the state it's in right now. And this could hurt our ability to be social and be friendly and, all that stuff. And, to be partners and allies to people. And then on October 25th, we have Sun and the retrograde Mercury conjunct at 8 degrees Libra, with Mars' 8th aspect on it and Saturn's 10th aspect. So, the way I look at this is that with the garbled communication, Mercury retrograde, and the angry communication because Mars is looking at the retrograde Mercury, and the communication that people just can't get together from Saturn looking at the retrograde Mercury, ego is going to be added to this when the Sun conjuncts Mercury retrograde. So it's like, yeah, people are going to be, ego is going to hit a fever pitch, with this election season running. Another thing too that I forgot to mention is, the Sun is debilitated in Libra. That's its debilitation sign. Aries is where it's, it's coming back for spring. It's its exaltation. So Libra's debilitation. So, this means that leaders are debilitated, leaders, executive figures, they're not going to be able to get as much done as they'd like. The good part is this can kind of like curb their ability to, just sort of screw with our lives. It's kind of curbs the overreach. The leaders with Saturn in better conditions, they'll do better. So I'll get into that later about whose chart looks like what. And then we end the month with the other full moon. So we get to October 31st, we get to Halloween, and we get a full moon in Aries. So Halloween, which was once called Samhain in the Gaelic world, October 31st was the New Year's Eve in that world. November 1st was the New Year's Day. And it's the day when sort of the barriers between the physical world and the spirit world sort of become thin. And it's when we can sort of get guidance from the spirit world. It's a day when we have heightened access to that. So, as I mentioned, that new moon on the 16th, that new moon in Virgo being about an ending, about things that we have to, that new moon in Pisces about on the 16th about things that we have to heal, healing anger. So on Samhain, on Halloween, on October 31st, we get a full moon in Aries. So, no full moon is more about new beginnings than a full moon in Aries, because Aries is the first sign. It's spring. It's the beginning. It's about taking the initiative and moving forward and charging forward. So on that day, on that full moon, the moon is conjunct with Uranus in Aries. It's a retrograde Uranus. So, our minds are really, Uranus in retrograde, it's helping us to overturn the status quo of, what leaders have meant to us and how leaders have treated us and how we treat leaders. And, we have a real problem with hero worship in our world. And, just putting people on pedestals who are in positions of power. So I think that full moon, it's about creating a new world where we don't do that, and we sort of overturn what leadership has meant for a long time and have a new relationship with it. During this full moon, when the moon is conjunct Uranus retrograde, we get a fifth aspect to Jupiter on it. So Jupiter is the bestower of gifts, and Jupiter is a very benevolent planet, and Jupiter is the Earth's protector, literally. Because Jupiter sucks in asteroids and comets and meteors and all kinds of stuff, Jupiter is the sky god that protects the Earth. Jupiter's Thor. Thor is a protector of humanity. It's like Thor is like the protector of humanity. So Jupiter is kind of like granting us a blessing. Thor or Zeus or Indra, however you want to look at Jupiter, is blessing us and protecting us that day. So, that's auspicious in my opinion. So, that's the month of October. I've gone over an hour. A lot of ins and outs to that. So I'll have some spin-off videos for this, hopefully very soon. IMF meeting. I want to talk about Trump and Biden, what their charts look like, so I got my work cut out for me. But I don't think I forgot anything. I probably did, but I'll remember in an hour. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate your viewing. I do enjoy making these. So thanks for tuning in. My site again is thecosmicalchemist.com. I'm Patrick Jaguar. And if you want to see how these times affect you specifically, I highly recommend a Vedic astrology reading with me. We're definitely going into an interesting, challenging, and transformative decade where the whole world, I think, is going to be transformed. So, an astrology reading really helps you to not only see your hidden talents, but it helps you to see opportunities in your life and opportunities that you can, seize and take advantage of. So it's a great roadmap for just moving ahead in life. I also do rune readings. Runes are a great way to kind of lay out a mind map and help you find the places in your mind, in your behaviors and your emotions that that you're blocked, and to rebalance those blockages in your mind and move forward and start building the life you want to have. I also have some Qigong videos for sale for download. Qigong is a great mind-body practice that it really helps you to sort of get in touch with the environment, gets you in touch with the stars, the planets, and with the whole just intuitive side of your being. It also helps you just relax and improves your health too. So that's all I've got. Thanks again, and talk to you later. Have a good one.